What do you know about the Google Stadia? Yeah, a lot of people probably don't even know what that is, and you'd be forgiven for not knowing what it is. The Google Stadia released on November the 19th. It's their cloud gaming service. Got an official controller and everything. It streams games, essentially, as you play them. It released to numerous issues, underperforming, allegedly. No surprise there, though that's not really what this video's about. As I was looking around on the internet, I came across an article that was linked in a Discord channel. From theweek.com, Google is selling gender-neutral controllers to appeal to women. You know, this doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, this article is almost not even worth mentioning in and of itself. There's nothing here that should surprise anybody. There's nothing here that should really be of particular interest in and of itself, but we'll go over it. I think it's worthy of a little bit of a discussion, right? Google hopes to get a competitive edge in the gaming industry by appealing to women with its new game service, Stadia. That makes sense. That doesn't sound unreasonable at all. I mean, women are just over half of the population. Say, for simplicity's sake, they're half of the population, right? The vast majority of people who play on consoles and the PC, right? They're men. The vast majority of hardcore gamers are men. It's a hobby that's very inclusive, certainly. Anyone could get into it. Anybody can try it. Anybody can enjoy it. Anybody can play it. Video games are amazing, in part because they're meritocratic. Doesn't matter what your gender is, doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter what country you're from, what your ethnicity or your race or your religion is. None of that matters. What matters is your skill and your practice and your tactics and your dedication to the game, your talent. That's what should put you ahead in a video game. That's why it's so inclusive. And the good kind of inclusive. That doesn't mean that video games are for everybody. It means that a good video game player, or a video game player who just has fun playing video games, can come from anywhere. And if you're Google, or if you're really any company, then there's nothing wrong at all with wanting to increase the appeal of your products to start to encapsulate more interest from the half of the population that isn't generally as interested in video games as they are now. Obviously, a company wants to increase their potential earnings by appealing to more people. The more people they can get invested or interested, then maybe the more money they'll get. Now, this has never been an issue in and of itself. The issue has always been when they take something that people like and people enjoy and then start changing that for the worse in order to appeal to a demographic that largely simply isn't interested in it. Not too long ago, I went to a nearby Hobby Lobby, like a gifts and crafts store, for those who aren't aware. Went to Hobby Lobby to buy Christmas lights. Little ones, just to kind of hang up around the house and stuff. They're cheap. They provide good light. I can just leave them on. So I went over there to get some Christmas lights, and I must have been hauling around the only cock in that whole building. It was nothing, but I would say that the demographic was mostly, certainly women. I don't think I saw another guy there. Gals who are about maybe 40 and older. Sometimes they'd have like a young kid with them, almost always a daughter or a granddaughter, and they're out there buying their arts and crafts supplies and their portraits and their knickknacks and doodads. They already had the Christmas stuff out, and the Thanksgiving stuff is out, and they're buying little pumpkins and turkeys and reindeer, and they're buying their Christmas lights and stocking stuff, and it's that time of year. Everyone's getting all their holiday supplies, right? Now, while I was walking through that store, never would have even crossed my mind that I should go to the people who run Hobby Lobby and said, you know what? I kind of feel like you're appealing to the female demographic a bit too much. I feel like in order to capture the male population, in order to capture the interest of, men as a gender, I think you've got too many angels and too many unicorns and rainbows, and you've got too much pink and purple and all of this stuff, too much frizzy this and fuzzy that, too many cutesy stuff. I want to see more race cars and guns and explosions, and I want to see more, I don't know, what are guys, dinosaurs. I want to see more construction equipment. I want to see a fucking Hard Hat Harry Dakimakura. You guys remember Hard Hat Harry? I sure as hell remember Hard Hat Harry. I just went in, I bought the stuff, and I left. Paid for it with money. They were happy to sell it to me. I just walked out. And that was that. There was no issues, no problems. I went in, got what I needed, and left. I'm going on one of my tangents. Back to I'm going to focus here, right? Some of our historical competitors in the console space have been a bit more masculine and a bit more mechanical in their approach, Phil Harrison, Google VP and head of Stadia, said in an interview with CNN Business. In designing new hardware, Google is trying to go gender neutral by selling controllers in 3 colors, white, black, or wasabi green, reports CNN. Director of Design Isabel Olson explained to CNN that the green color was particularly chosen because both men and women gravitated towards this color. Well, sure, that makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. I don't think there's anything particularly noteworthy about that. If you're a company and you want to get people to buy your stuff, then you want to have colors that will appeal to them. If the only Xboxes that they made were pink, that would probably affect sales with men. A lot of men probably wouldn't want a girly color, quite frankly, to be their Xbox color, right? They like the whites, they like the blacks, they like, the special this and that and the other thing. But pink with unicorns and rainbow stickers on it, it's probably something that would turn a lot of guys away. It's not very masculine, right? Not something that they find very aesthetically pleasing. And much in the same way, there's a reason why if you go to a toy store and you can go to the little kids aisles or the girls section, all the Barbies and all the Brats and all the My Little Ponies and stuff, they're pink and they got the rainbows and they got the sparkles and all that stuff, right? It appeals to little girls. It appeals generally to women. And guess what? That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Go to the boys section. Race cars. Dinosaurs. Star Wars blasters. Do kids buy Star Wars toys anymore? I don't know. They used to. You got construction equipment, stuff like that, right? Nothing is stopping a girl from buying a construction toy or a race car. Nothing stops it at all. Just like nothing's stopping a boy from being interested in Barbies. Just boys aren't generally. Just like girls aren't generally interested in race cars. And that's fine. Men and women are different, even at young ages. They're different, and that's okay. Celebrate our differences and how well we pair together, right? So when we talk about Google making, gender-neutral controllers, that's not a big deal, not a big issue. That's fine. Everyone gets their option. And that's the kind of thing that I don't think anyone should be upset with. The article, though, I think functions well as a sort of jumping-off point for just a set of thoughts that I've had. The other day, I released a video about the Star Wars show The Mandalorian that highlighted all sorts of different angry, upset tweets by people saying that they didn't like the show because it didn't have a female as the protagonist, or it didn't have enough females in the 2 episodes that had been released. Well, the 1 episode in particular, the first episode, didn't have enough women to satisfy some people, right? And it's such an aesthetic only kind of thing. The issue wasn't the character itself. The issue wasn't the quality of the writing or the world building or the script or anything like that. It was just that the character, there weren't enough people of the correct gender, essentially. And the show was worse off because of it. If it had more women, it would have been better, just by the virtue of it having more women. And I saw that and I thought to myself, that's a really shallow kind of outlook to have, right? It's aesthetic representation over actual substance. And when I hear this thing about Google making the gender-neutral controllers, you know, the colors and that they're smaller and everything, it sort of does seem to me that a company like Google can change colors and change controllers so that it is physically more appealing to one of the genders, implying that widely, one of the genders actually sort of does have a general preference for something, even if that general preference is only purely aesthetic. And this shouldn't come as a shock to anybody, right? Black controllers, blue controllers, red controllers, dark green, you know, typically more masculine colors. These things appeal towards, well, men. The pinks and the blues and the turquoises and the salmons, those generally appeal to women. And that's fine too. So Google has confirmed that men and women do generally prefer to do different things. Men and women do generally prefer different kinds of things, even if it's purely aesthetic. I could have swore that they fired a guy when he released a memo that said that men and women have different preferences. Could have swore that there was a big thing that happened a while back where a fellow was dismissed from Google and blacklisted, and his name was just dragged through the mud because he had the audacity to suggest that generally men and women just sort of prefer, by and large, different things. And now you have Google going out of its way, in a fine way, I'll add, to try and capture the female demographic by changing the colors of their controllers. Or to add an option that would be more appealing to a larger audience. How strange it is that Google can do both of those things at once. You know, it's almost like when it comes to marketing and trying to sell things to people, companies like Google, they know the truth. They know what really is going on. A company knows that if it covers things in unicorns and rainbows and it's pink and purple and, you know, these typically feminine aesthetic choices, that it will turn away males. And they probably know that if they slap a bunch of guns and explosions and sports stuff and race cars and construction equipment, if they put that stuff on toys, well, maybe guys will probably like them more. Boys will probably like them more. Just an interesting thought. This one's a little rambly. I understand that. But the idea of a gender-neutral controller, obviously the controller, it's a controller. It doesn't have a gender. That's not what it's trying to say. It's exploiting, quote-unquote exploiting, if you want to even call it exploiting. Appealing is probably the better word for it. There's nothing malicious behind it, right? They're designing things that will appeal to a larger demographic because they want more and more people to be interested in particularly engaging with the product, therefore getting them more money. It's simple stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. No one's being exploited. No one's being taken advantage of. It's just marketing. They just want to catch people's interest. Another thought that I couldn't help but have, right? Google selling gender-neutral controllers to appeal to women. All right, so I hope Google understands that generally women don't like video games as much as men. And we ain't talking Candy Crush and Bejeweled on your phone, okay? We ain't talking about that. I'm talking about video games. Call of Duty and Dragon Age. Fuck, Dragon Age is one of the ones that came to mind. What happened to that? Jeez. Halo and Call of Duty and Mordhau and DayZ and shit like that, you know? Video games. Video games. So, I guess Google thinks that if they just change the color of their controllers, women will want to play video games more. Maybe that's the case. I don't think so. Unless you're doing something to fundamentally sort of change the nature of the hobby, then you're probably not going to really appeal to more women than you did anyway. You're going to have to change the competitive nature of maybe some of the games. Here's the thing. Let's say you get in on the... let's say that you get these women interested. Let's say you get their foot in the door. They buy the Google Stadia. They buy your game system, right? Well, what then? Are they going to be interested in the Red Dead Redemptions and the Gears of Wars and the Jedi Fallen Orders? Are they going to be more interested in those games? Will they stick with these games more because the controller's a different color? Or will you end up just getting women interested in getting into the system and then having them realize, oh wait, these are games that I don't really care about? And at the same time, I do wonder, will the very gender-neutral kind of design of the Google Stadia, will that put off more men than it encourages women to buy it? And if that's the case, I wonder what that's going to do to the bottom line. I wonder if their attempt to try and make it less edgy, I guess less edgy literally, by the controller's ergonomics, I wonder if that's going to push away more men than it would have gotten more women interested. The Stadia is, by what I've read so far, not performing particularly well, though it just came out, so that is a very tentative assessment. Don't hold me to it. That's just what I've kind of heard. I'm curious if that has a role to play in it. I wonder if it's not just the nature of the fact it's a streaming service that, according to VentureBeat, right? I read an article where it takes up over 100 megabytes of data per minute to play some games at 1080p. Ooh, boy. But putting data caps to the side, whenever you have a new entrance by a company into the gaming market, and we've seen this time and time again with the Ouya. Remember that? You've got it here with the Stadia, which I don't think it's going to really do anything. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Not yet, certainly. But in order to get people to jump onto a new system, you're going to have to incentivize people to begin making an investment into buying a system, buying a service, and then sticking with it, right? And the Stadia is an unproven new entrant into this market. Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and of course all the PC companies that work together, right? They are proven. They have a track record of success. They are mainstays in the industry. You know that when you buy a PlayStation, you know when you buy a Switch, you know when you buy an Xbox or when you buy a gaming PC, you know that that's going to last. You know that you can safely invest time and money into building up that library and sticking with that system, whatever it may be. With a Stadia, you don't have that. I really do think they also kind of have shot themselves in the foot by selling gender-neutral controllers to appeal to women. Not the color so much. I'll rephrase that. Not the color so much. Releasing a wide variety of colors, probably not going to hurt you. Probably not going to hurt you, right? But the reality of the design of the controller itself is that if you design a controller that really keeps like small hands and women in mind, then that focus very possibly could drive away men. And quite frankly, if you're going to release a gaming system that isn't already built into the phone that people already have, you're going to have to appeal to men, because men are the ones who are the most interested in video games. I think that if you... Now, Google isn't going full forward with appealing to women. They want to have things that do appeal to women as well. I think it hurts them to a little smaller degree for the reasons I've mentioned. But I feel like if let's say a company was going to hypothetically create a gaming system that really catered towards women, that specifically went out of its way to specifically appeal to the fairer sex, I think that is a doomed project. I think that the concept is untenable in today's society. It is far better to simply, if we're talking about market success, I think it is far more likely that you're going to have success as Microsoft, and let's just look at what we've got, right? Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, the PC. I use PC as sort of a catch-all term. I assume you guys know what I mean when I say that, right? There is nothing about any of these systems, there's nothing about video gaming that excludes women on any intrinsic level. There's nothing about it that keeps women from entering into the hobby, enjoying the hobby, being good at it. There's nothing about the products and the services that keep women away. The products and the services that we have now are generally more geared towards men, because men generally prefer that kind of activity, sort of at its core. But women, by all means, I have no problem with more women getting involved with it. Sure. Just don't try and push them in when they don't want it. You know? And don't take the thing that we've got that's amazing and excellent and try and change that and take away the things that men like about it just so you can appeal to women. And therefore, probably make gaming worse because of it. Because you're taking something that people enjoy and you're changing it into something else to appeal to a demographic that wasn't interested in it in the first place. Just my thoughts. I think Google Stadia is doomed to fail. I think it's going to go the way of the Ouya. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm not a market expert. Just a dog with an opinion. But that's what I think. I don't think that the Stadia is really going to capture a lot of interest in particular. Especially with stuff like the Shield out there. Especially with Nintendo DS's. Especially with Switches. Especially with phones that people have. You guys have phones, right? I think people, if they want gaming on the go, they have plenty of excellent options. And when it comes to the more hardcore demographics of gaming, I think the Stadia is simply just we've already got enough options as it is. People don't want to spread themselves too thin, and people don't want to invest in an unproven platform. I think I'm repeating myself now, so it's probably time for me to go ahead and close it out. Thanks for giving a listen. You guys have an excellent day, yeah? And tell me what you think in the comments, because it's not every day that we get a new entrant, trying to flex itself and take a little chunk of that pie out for itself. So who knows what'll happen? Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure. It would be, I will say this. I don't think I'm wrong, but it certainly would be more interesting if I was. But I guess only time will tell. Maybe we'll keep an eye on it going forward. Y'all have a lovely day, yeah?